Hey everyone, I'm out in the shop thinking about this Smittybilt air compressor, and maybe there's a better way to do that modification than to switch the one end of this hose to the SAE, the standard female fitting with the 3/16 inch barbed end, just to kind of get rid of the Japanese style ends, which are on the compressor stock. The hose that goes actually on the compressor itself has the male end, and then the hose that comes with the air compressor has two female ends. So I switched that out, and actually, yeah, the compressor comes with one female end and one male end, and I switched it out so it had two female ends, but one's an SAE and one's the Japan style. So I think what I'm going to do is, on the compressor hose, I'm going to cut the Japan style off of this end and put a standard SAE female end here. And then I won't need this hose at all. I can use my standard air hose. So whether it's coiled, I have a 25-foot coiled hose, but I also can use any standard SAE airline. So I think it'll just be a little bit more universal. I'll show you what I mean. All right, so on this standard coiled hose, I've got a female end and a male end. So on the air compressor itself, this one here needs to be switched over to the female end, which is this one here. So I can do that with this connection and then just not use this hose at all. I think I'll just keep my heavy duty air compressor hose in the bag instead of this yellow one. The yellow one's, it's fine, I think, to start out with, but if you want to move a little bit more air, the larger diameter would probably be just a little bit better. So this is your standard 1/4 inch hose, and the other one is the inside diameter is 3/16. So I think this will be just a little bit better. And I'm also going to modify, if you remember on my other video, this, the air gauge with the Japan style fittings and the screw-in type fitting that you have to actually put on the valve stem. This came with the compressor, but I'm going to cut this end off, this female Japan style, and now I'll put a male end on this side and a female end on this side, and then I can still run my my air chuck, for my dualies and stuff, plus have the air gauge here. And that might alleviate some of the problems that some people have been having an issue where the air compressor cycles, and then it lets off a little bit of pressure, and then it'll cycle again and let off pressure. It won't actually shut off. So that should take care of that problem, but I'm going to try it out and see if it works. So I'll just take this hose and cut it about right there, and just make a nice clean cut, and then I can fit my barbed in fitting. Okay, so that's cut off, and now I can throw in my 1/4 inch barbed end, and that's the threaded SAE, which that guy right there will thread right onto. All right, so on the air compressor, I've got that hose cut, which was the male Japanese style. Got a nice clean cut there. Get rid of that. And then push in. Let's see, do we want a hose clamp on there? We'll throw a hose clamp on, just for good measure. Put that guy on there. Then we can tighten that hose clamp. Teflon tape. All right, it's good and tight. So now we've got the female end on here, and now I can use any standard air hose to lock into here, and I've still got my standard female end for my standard male end on my dually air chuck. And yeah, that way it's a little bit more universal. If anybody else wanted to use the compressor, they don't have to worry about, you know, or if they want to add an extension, another hose, they don't have to worry about the Japan style connectors getting in the way. Or if they have, you know, their own hose or something for this end, it's just going to fit a wider variety of air hoses. So there's that. Now I'm going to go ahead and get this little air gauge with the funky, you know, spin-on threaded end for the, you know, for the valve stem. Get that cut off and put on a regular, another female end here and a male end here. All right, so let's cut the female end off of this gauge. Nice straight cut. All right, I went to the hardware store and got 1/4 inch FNPT with 1/4 inch barb. Got 2 of these, one for the female fitting, one for the male fitting. I'm going to cut the end off of this side. I got 2 more small hose clamps, and I'm not sure if I need them or not, but let's just take a look here. Yeah, I don't think I need the clamps. Okay, so that goes on perfectly. The 1/4 inch barbed fits in that hose perfectly, and it does not come off. So, okay, there's the other one. Get the fittings on. All right, Teflon tape on both fittings. All right, that's tight. All right, so on the gauge, this is what you end up with. Got the female on the one side where you plug in your air chuck, and then the male side plugs into the hose on the air compressor. And for your new 1/4 inch hose, you've got your female end and your male end. And the air compressor side has a new SAE female end. Now we've got that. And the air chuck. And we're all set to go. We've got the gauge. So let's try that out and see how that works. Got the Smittybilt compressor, all the new mods to it with the standard fittings on the hoses, so no more of the Japanese style fittings anywhere on this compressor. I've got about another $9 into it with the SAE fittings. So if you want to just do the SAE fittings all the way around and not mess with what I did in that first video, cost you about $9 for the fittings, and then you'll have to buy standard hose. So I bought a coiled hose. It was 16 bucks. It's a 25-foot coil hose, and I'm going to go ahead and test this thing out. So that worked great. That gauge is nice to have right there when you're filling up with the chuck, the dually chuck. Having that Smittybilt gauge is pretty accurate. It was just 1 pound off from the Milton gauge, which the Milton gauge is probably the more accurate gauge. I think the blow-off valve that's just how the compressor works. The best way to fix that problem is to have a longer power cord so you can drag the actual compressor motor around with you to each wheel. Now I've got my Anderson connectors and some thick cable that I can plug into the Anderson outlet on the truck, on the front of the truck. Again, if you haven't seen that video, go back and look at that modification video where I ran the Anderson connector out the front of the truck so I don't have to open the hood to plug in the air compressor. And having that 30-foot cord, it's from my solar panel setup, same connectors, so I can run that cord around and drag the compressor motor with me rather than having the longer hose, the longer air hose. I can have just a longer power cable. And there shouldn't be much loss at all. I'm using that big thick cable with the 45 amp Anderson connectors, so that should be just fine without much loss, if any. So again, I think that's going to work out good. It's probably not as convenient as the other way, but I think this way is going to be a little more universal, and for my setup it's going to work just fine for me. So again, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. Later.